Hey yo, what's up y'all? It's your boy Kato right here. Yo, check it. I'm getting ready to start making videos where I review movies. I think I've done a couple in the past, but I think I'm gonna get into this thing because I kind of have fun doing that. And the difference, and I know many people do reviews of movies. I think what I'm gonna do differently, or what the way I want to do mine, is that I'm gonna review movies from the past. Basically, some of my favorite movies. Now this is kind of weird coming from a guy who's not a real big fan of critics. So I'm going to try to do basically what is considered, or what I'm going to call, non-critical reviews. At any rate, I think that's what I'm going to go ahead and start doing to see how we do in that department. What I wanted to do today is basically some of my favorite movies of all time, believe it or not, a lot of blaxploitation movies for many different reasons. They were the heyday when I was growing up, and those were the movies that I was going to see at the theaters in Washington, D.C., like the Senator and the Langston and the Lincoln and the Uptown Theater. At any rate, what I wanted to do with this clip right here was give you Kato's top 5 blaxploitation movies of all time. Alright? You ready? Okay. Number 5. Cornbread Earl and Me. This movie right here came out in 1975. Jamal Wilkes, who back then went by the name of Keith Wilkes, Rosalind Cash, Bernie Casey, Moses Gunn, Thalmus Rasulullah. Most of y'all may know him as Raj's dad on What's Happening. And a very young Lawrence Fishburne. As a matter of fact, this is, I think, the first movie I've ever seen Lawrence Fishburne in. And every time I see him, I always remember him from this movie. Basically what it's about is a young boy who's played by Lawrence Fishburne, who looks up to a big cousin of his who goes by the name of Cornbread. Earl is Lawrence's friend. At any rate, he looks up to him to the point where he brags about him all the time to his friends, to everybody in the neighborhood. As a matter of fact, Cornbread is like a neighborhood superstar. He's a basketball player, and every time you see him, he's always dribbling that ball and always doing good things. Well, a situation happened in this movie where Cornbread is actually mistaken as a criminal guy who robbed and raped a person. And so during the rain, as the police chasing the guy and the guy loses the police, they kind of run into Cornbread. And as they see Cornbread running in the rain, they see a soda pop in his hand, and pow, they pop him. An interesting story of how some major corrupt police officers and lawyers in the system really try to do whatever they can to slam the victim in this situation and make it look like that he was the one in the wrong. If you've never seen this movie, really check it out. It's a really great movie. Okay, my number 4 is Uptown Saturday Night. Now this is an all-star cast that came out in 1974, and it starred Bill Cosby, Sidney Poitier, Rosalind Cash, Flip Wilson, Harry Belafonte, Calvin Lockhart, Richard Pryor, Paula Kelly, Roscoe Lee Brand, Harold Nicholas, and Lee Chamberlain as the beautiful Madame Zenobia. Uptown Saturday Night is one of what I would call one of those movies that entail a whole lot of big names and faces, really to just see them all working together as one ensemble. It's basically a story about 2 guys played by Cosby and Poitier who go into this after-hours gambling spot. And while they're there, the gambling spot gets robbed. And all the things that are robbed in this gambling spot is a lottery ticket that Sidney Poitier has won, and he finds out that he's the winner of this lottery. So the whole entire movie from that point on is about Poitier and Cosby on a mission trying to recover that lottery ticket. Sounds like a similar story, right? There was a movie made years later that starred Ice Cube and Michael Epps called All About the Benjamins. They kind of adapted that same story. If you've never seen it, and I can't believe anyone who's never seen it, you gotta check this one out. Definitely. Okay, my next pick, number 3, is actually a movie that didn't come out back in the 70s, but came out much later in the 90s. And one of the reasons why I picked this movie is it actually stars who I consider to be the queen of blaxploitation movies, and that's the wonderful and always beautiful Miss Pam Grier. But also starring in this movie is Samuel L. Jackson, Robert De Niro, Chris Tucker, Tiny Lester, Michael Keaton, Bridget Fonda, and Robert Foster. And once again, the reason I picked this movie as number 3 because Pam Grier in this movie embodies all the people that she played in the character during the 70s blaxploitation era. I'm talking about the characters like Coffee and Foxy Brown and all the other characters that she portrayed during that 70s blaxploitation era. Okay, down to number 2 of my top 5 blaxploitation movies of all time. Number 2 is Let's Do It Again. Yes, this is another installment of what I would call 3 installments that came to us from Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. The first one, of course, I named earlier was Uptown Saturday Night. This one, who I pick as number 2, is Let's Do It Again, and of course Piece of the Action, which isn't in my top 5. However, this movie, Let's Do It Again, which once again gives us such an all-star cast with folks such as Lee Chamberlain, Denise Nicholas, John Amos, Calvin Lockhart, and Jimmy Walker. Now here, once again in this second installment, you have Cosby and Poitier getting themselves caught up in antics again. This particular time, they decide they want to raise money for their charity organization. So what they do is they go down to New Orleans and they hypnotize a real weak boxer who's played by Jimmy Walker, and they make him rough and tough. Awesome movie you want to see, especially when you see folks like John Amos, who plays Kansas City Mac, and also the smooth Calvin Lockhart, who played Biggie Smalls. This movie is a must-see. And now, my number 1 top blaxploitation movie of all time is, drumroll please, Cooley High. Thank you very much. Here's a movie here that came out in 1975. And it starred Glenn Turman, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, Cynthia Davis, Stephen Williams, Jackie Taylor, Sherman Smith, Norman Gibson, Garrett Morris, and even had a tiny cameo role from Robert Townsend. Now this particular movie right here, let me tell you something. When I was 11 years old, and this came out in 1975, but I went to see it when I was 11. So that means I seen it, I guess, in 76. Had to, right? At any rate, my sister had taken me to see a double feature movie, and it was on my birthday. The 2 movies of this double feature, one was what I picked as number 5, Cornbread Earl and Me, and the other was what I picked as number 1, Cooley High. This right here is a coming of age movie. It's really a coming of age, and it takes place in an area of Chicago called Capini Green. And a lot of things are not always that great, and a lot of times they ended tragic. This is kind of one of those movies, but it really set a tone for black theater to me. This particular movie affected me so much. You know, I think I know every single line in that movie, and it was just great to see how this ensemble of basically the only big names in the movie at that time was Glenn Turman, who was also doing blaxploitation movies such as JD's Revenge and Thomasine and Bushrod. He had Lawrence Hilton Jacobs, of course. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs done stuff like Young Blood and Claudine. But putting those 2 together, and then they just grabbed all these unknown, actually the people from the Capini Green area in Chicago, and they made this awesome movie that was actually written by a guy from that area. You know, it's actually based on a true story written by Eric Monty, who was from Capini Green. And later on, Eric Monty went on to become a writer. And he helped create shows such as What's Happening, which is a TV show that was based off of that movie. Good Times, Sanford and Son, and many, many others. I remember as a young person doing theater, my audition piece would always be the cemetery piece where preacher's talking to the grave of his friend who was just buried, Cochise. And that whole monologue, which is a powerful monologue, was a piece that I always used when I would do auditions and stuff like that. At any rate, those are my top 5 blaxploitation flicks of all time. Do you agree or disagree? I would love to hear your opinion on that, all right?